Shalom, shalom, everyone. This is Servant RD, also known as Vermont, and I'm coming to you with another video. And this one will be entitled The Provocation. Yeah, that's right, The Provocation. Now, as I sat here at my desk, I was thinking about the various things that's going on and how the weather around the world is in a turmoil. Nations are being affected by the turbulent winds that's blowing all over the earth. The four winds are blowing. I like to refer to it as the four winds of Revelation. Revelation meaning the uncovering, the unveiling, the revealing. What is being revealed? The promise of our Father. In Numbers, I can't remember, I think it's 22, 20, somewhere in the 20s, don't quote me on it, but it said, the Father is not a man that he should lie, nor the Son of Man that he should repent. And in Isaiah, I think the 55, it says that my word will not go out and return void, but it will accomplish. And so what we are witnessing is the culmination, the apex of the Father's word, with all the hurricanes, with the tornadoes, tap dancing, and the heat and fire out west in California, flooding in both of the cities, two of the most beautiful cities in the United States, Houston and Florida, tropical regions. You see flooding, and there's a preacher down there that's still trying to have a conference with all this disaster. There's a preacher, New Light, down there trying to have a pastor and leadership conference. In a time like this, people need to understand that the pastor and leadership conference to become an effective minister and to grow a church and all those things, that day is done, y'all. You must understand the day of destiny, favor, and purpose. Those days are over. Anyway, why would you settle for less when you can have the best? And the best is what's happening. The land all over. Not only here in the United States, abroad, around the world, globally, we are seeing catastrophic events. People, they witnessed the ocean just disappear, and people walking out on the ocean floor, several feet from the shoreline. What's going on? We have already witnessed the birds falling from the sky. We've witnessed on multiple occasions and multiple instances where we have witnessed fish, rather. I'm thinking about the Godfather, Luca Brasi's swim with the fishes. But we are witnessing fish. They have washed ashore for many, many years. We've witnessed that on a consistent basis. Earthquakes and how the earth is moving. We actually witnessed an earthquake where the ground was actually moving. People were running and jumping over the opening of the ground. We witnessed in Israel where people were partying and the ground opened up and the floor opened up and people fell within the into the earth. So we see these things happening all over the world, all in Mexico, earthquakes back to back, hurricanes back to back, all type of flooding going on. It went on in Rome and out in the far east, and all type of changes going on up in Europe, in Africa. There's something going on, brothers and sisters. And what's going on? It's the fulfillment of the Father's promise. I'm reminded of Exodus, the 19th chapter. And I always use this as a reference. You probably hear me reference this chapter every time I create a video. And the Father, I'm not going to turn to it, just paraphrase. The Father promised Israel that Israel will be his peculiar treasure. And he said, kingdom of priests. And then he said, all the earth is mine. You read it yourself. Exodus 19:1 through the 6th verse. Those are the key points that the Father laid out, mapped out for his people. He said, you would be my peculiar treasure, and I want you to be a kingdom of priests. Remember the scripture I kind of alluded to about the Father saying that he is not a man that he should lie. Not only a peculiar treasure, he said, a kingdom of priests. Brothers and sisters, that's what's going on. When you read in Exodus where it says, the whole earth is mine, you have to understand something. We are the land is us. It goes all the way back to Genesis when the Father scooped up the dust and he formed the man which he had already made. Then he breathed in this man, and man became a living soul from the dust of the ground. He say, dust thou shalt return. So we are the dust, and the dust is us. And we are the representative of this dust. We are the representative of what the Father claimed as his. He say the earth is mine, and he want us to be a kingdom of priests. And he punished us because we failed to honor our end of this contract that we made. I say this all the time, and many people may get tired of me saying it. Well, I don't apologize for it. No apologies. So what we are witnessing, brothers and sisters, we are witnessing the consummation of the promises that the Father has made. And so it's closer. And the closer we get, the more intense our walk with the Most High we get. It will become more intense because this is a proving ground that we're on. And so I want to talk about the provocation. The provocation has to do with our disposition and our temperament as we get closer to this promise that will be fulfilled. There is no way around it. See, when Paul wrote in Romans the 8th chapter, around the 22nd verse, he said that creation groans. He said it groans for the redemption of the Father's elect, the redemption of our bodies. Creation, see, the two in contrast, the elect and the Father's earth. Creation is waiting on us, and so what we are witnessing is the groaning of creation, y'all. catastrophic events that's happening all over the world. It's the groaning of creation. Creation is crying out. Creation is lifting its voice because there has been a change that is happening. It's been declared from the heavens. The heavens have declared the glory of the Father. And now the redemption of the sons of Yah's elect is at hand. And as we get closer and closer to that day, there will be an assessment. And that's what's going on. An evaluation. The Father wants it to be proven to the whole heavens, the whole earth, rather, in the heavens and beneath the earth. When you read in Revelation, when Yahshua, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, but his proper name is Yahshua HaMashiach, how the Father had the roll in his hand, the title deed of the earth. No one was able to open this scroll or even take the scroll out of the Father's hand. And Yahshua, he stood up, and he was the only one that was found worthy to take this roll out of the Father's hand. And as soon as he took the roll out of the Father's hand, he began to break open the seals. The title deed of all creation, the title deed of what the Father has ordered from the beginning of time. We see that Yahshua began to break open those seals to release and to unveil and uncover the secret that's been hidden from all from all ages, from the foundations of the world all the way up to that present moment. This is what we are witnessing, brothers and sisters. And as he began to open up those seals, there were all type of reactions and catastrophic events that began to take place. It was for the redemption of the Father's elect. The whole world is waiting. When they say creation, it's talking about the whole world. You cannot get around the promises and the prophecies of the Father. And the whole world and all nations, kindreds, and tongues is waiting because the Father promised to these people that they would be a peculiar treasure and a kingdom of priests. So, when we began to turn away from the agreement that we made, the Father sent in nations to punish us. The Father sent in all type of ethnos to chastise us. And when you read in Judges the second chapter in the 20th verse, verse 21, 21, 22, and 23, somewhere around there, you find out that the Father would deliver us from the enemy, and then we'll go back and offend the Father. And he once again, we'll cry to him, and he once again would deliver us, and we'll go right back into the offense. He deliver us, and we go right back into the offense. And so the Father, he got tired of this back and forth, and he said, I will no longer deliver you out of these nations. Those nations that oppressed you, I will no longer deliver you. I will leave these nations there in order to prove you, and whether you will keep the way that I have given you or no. That's in Judges, the second chapter, and around the 22nd verse. And this is what's going on. We have found ourselves in a nation that has oppressed us, a nation that continues to oppress us, a nation that continues to allow its officials to do things that's not according to what is righteous and what they have written in their books. And a justice system that will not serve justice, just like our brother Messiah. As a matter of fact, our brother Messiah didn't receive justice in the courtroom. Therefore, his brothers will not receive justice in the courtroom. So this is where we are looking. This is what we are witnessing. The Father said it's time for you to be proven. And this is a proving ground. But when you look in Hebrews, the 3rd chapter, and around the 8th verse, it talks about us, how we harden our hearts when we're in Egypt. And then it goes on to say, the day you hear my voice, harden not your heart as you did in the provocation. You see, the Father, we understand that he had to test us. He had to give an evaluation on how we are coming along with this walk. He's not giving a test for him, but he's giving a test for all creation. Everything is a witness. Don't you remember Job, when Job was going through, and when Satan visited the Father, when he came with the sons of men, and the Father said, have you considered my servant Job? There's no man like him in the east, a righteous and upright man, and one who feared the Most High and eschewed evil. And Satan said, I can't get to him because you got a hedge around him. Then when the Father allowed Satan to do what he did, you see that there was a series of insight and pontification that went on between Job and his friends. And throughout the whole book, you see and you read that Job, he held his integrity. Even though he did not understand everything that went on, he held his integrity. Then, after a series of back and forth, the Father stepped in. He said, where were you when I created the foundations of the world? What was that about? That was to tell us that the whole earth and all the Father's creation is a witness to his promise to his people. Many people may not believe that, but hey, you don't have to believe it. So this promise, it must be a substantiation of these promised people. It just can't be a declaration made without it being substantiated. It must be some type of confirmation. When you make reservations to go out of town and you book a hotel or book a flight, you want a confirmation number, don't you? That's the Father's system. So the Father needs confirmation, not for himself, but for his whole creation, for the angels and for all the creation, for the heavenly hosts and for all the underworld, for everything that he created. This is serious. This is why we are witnessing these things that's going on. So through this examination, this assessment that must be authenticated, it's up to us. The Father, he wants to prove, as you read in Judges, he wants to prove what is really in us. And through all the adversity and through all of the turmoil and the hardships that we have undergone, the Father want to know if we have learned our lesson, if we have allowed his character traits to penetrate our heart. That's what the Father is looking for, and he wants the whole world to see it. This is what is going on, and many people don't understand. This is why when you see the creation just going all crazy and things just happening out of the blue, understand we are at the threshold, the kingdom of the Father. And many people don't understand that. They're still playing around. They're still fooling around. And they don't understand the seriousness of what's going on. So, brothers and sisters, when I look at all of the incidents that's going on. We must understand that the Father, he wants his creation to know, as I forestated. He wants us to understand what is going on, so that even our testimony, we will be in awe of our own testimony of how he allowed us to go through the corridors of time and be looked at as the lowest on the totem pole. We'll be in awe of how the Father raised us up, and we will know it was nothing. We had nothing to do with it. But the Father, he was the one that allowed the circumstances and the situation and everything that was set up for our demise. The Father, he want the whole creation as well as us to understand that. When I think about Moses and how they were tested in the wilderness, and how the Father brought them out with a strong arm, and how the children of Israel, how the Israelites witnessed the awesome power of our Father, and how the Father told Moses to go down and tell Pharaoh to let my people go, and told him, I am that I am, Ashur, Ahia, Ashur, Ahia, Ahia, Ashur, Ahia. Tell them, I am that I am. I will be what I want to be. I will be what I will to be. I'm the self-sufficient one. Tell Pharaoh, I am. Then he went on to say, moreover, tell them, Yahweh have sent you. And he said to Moses, this will be my name forever. And the children of Israel witnessed that. They witnessed the plagues that the Father put on the Israelites. I mean, the Egyptians. I'm sorry. How he put it on the Egyptians. And the Father delivered them with a mighty hand. They crossed the Red Sea on dry ground, just like you saw and witnessed the individuals standing on the shores, in the banks and on the floor of the ocean, dry ground. When the hurricane sucked all the water, they didn't know where the water went. People say these stories are falsehood. Those are hardened hearts. People with hardened hearts. These are hardened heart individuals. But after the Father showed his mighty hand and even allowed them to walk on dry ground, then he began to allow Pharaoh's army to pursue after them, and they were drowned. They were drowned in the Red Sea. The Father took them in the wilderness to purge them, to purify them. Just like we have been in this wilderness of America. And now we seeing and witnessing the judgment of the world. Many people think this is Jacob trouble. I beg to differ. Jacob went through his trouble throughout the time of slavery and degradation, serfdom and servitude. Father's children been through the trouble. We're witnessing the judgment of the earth. And through that judgment, just like when you look at some of the movies when the criminal is backed up, many of the films you have witnessed, the criminal would get a hostage and put a gun or a knife to his head and neck and try to get out of their situation, out of the dilemma. This is what's going on. You see the judgment of the world, so of course they're going to come for that one that the Father loved, to try to get out of their dilemma. It's the same thing. It's no different. But as we witness the Israelites being in the wilderness, and they looked at Moses and they began to test the Father. You see, the Father, he want to evaluate the hearts of men. You say he searched the hearts. What you think he talking about? And it's very important for an individual to allow the evaluation, to allow the Father to validate him or her. How does the Father validate you? He validates you through the situations and circumstances that you go through. That's your validation. And it behooves any one of us to learn how to walk this, to run this race with patience and walk circumspectly. And when we go through the difficult times, to keep our mind. I told you about perfect peace. You keep your mind on the Father, he will keep you in perfect peace. But the Father needs to prove the individual. Just like he did with the children of Israel. He wanted to prove them. They looked at Moses and they got tired of being hungry. Even though the Father was feeding them manna, it wasn't fulfilling to the taste. But it was nourishment for their bodies. But they wanted to taste. They wanted to feel full. I used to talk to various people that were kind of overweight back in the day in the 80s. And I said, why you like to eat so? I want to feel full. It mattered not if they were full or not. They want to feel it. So they kept eating until they had the feeling of being stuffed. Not knowing that they were stretching their stomach, and therefore they had to eat more. But these our ancestors, they looked at Moses in the wilderness and they said, look, check this out, partner. We tired of walking through this wilderness. We tired of being thirsty. Even though when they were thirsty, but their body still had strength to journey on, the Father was purging them. And this is what's happening today. We're going through a purging process, brothers and sisters. And so the Father, he was purging them for them to learn how to lean and depend on him. Because he provided for them all the way up to that point. But what did they do? They told Moses, look, we tired of this. We tired of being hungry, tired of being thirsty, tired of walking. So they wanted Yahweh to prove himself faithful to them. Instead of them proving themselves faithful to Yah, they wanted, no, you prove yourself to us because we're tired of this situation, even though the Father was with them all the way up to that point. Even when they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, guess what? Their shoes never wore out. But yet and still, they still murmured and complained against the Father. And that's no different today. So they looking at the Father, look, in order for us to serve you, you're going to have to prove yourself. And so give us provision, Yahweh, and hand over the goods. And we don't want to go through all this trial and sufferings. Just hand over the goods. Then we'll decide if we're going to serve you or not. That's how the people behave today. They look around, you look, all these conferences, everybody trying to make a buck, everybody trying to be mighty. Your church can be big, and what this is all about, this ain't the Father. The Father say in season, out of season. The Father wants someone to be faithful. He say, he that endure to the end, the same shall be saved. Not he that had the biggest church. What happened when Joshua went out of that temple and they was talking about the greatness of that temple? Joshua said, let me verily, verily, truly, truly, let me tell y'all something. One stone will not be left on this building. Even the Father told David, I'm not a person that's dwelling building that's made by hand. Father ain't looking for all that. He wants somebody that's faithful. And when they go through the trial, when they go through the fire, when they go through the proving ground, they will still maintain their integrity towards the Father. That's what he's looking for. And all of us, including myself, can stand for some more integrity in our lives. So they, instead of them worshiping the Father, they wanted the Father to provide for them. Then after you provide and after we full and after we satisfied, then we'll make a decision to believe you and serve you and be obedient to you and show you our loyalty. And that's what provoked the Father. The Father said, I can't believe this. It's like a man or a woman do everything. A woman do everything she can for the man, and the man just continue to dog her out. Look, woman, I ain't studying you. She do what she can, and he just being bitter towards her, cussing her out, going upside her head. And the same with the man. He just trying his best to love a woman and to cherish her, and she look at him and just dogging him out. Like, what's her name? Cardi B. The cut a nigga also don't get cut. Oh yo B, you can't, that's what we, or whatever she talking about. Talking about cutting somebody off, all that kind of stuff. That's the spirit of rebellion. That is the spirit that is in the children of Israel. They want to have the provision first. And that's today. Everybody looking for some type of wealth, some type of money, favor, and purpose. Forget all that. Just follow the Father no matter what, and let him provide the provisions. It's the same thing that's going on today. It ain't no different. I mean, it's no different in the conscious community and all these wayward Hebrews that's calling themselves atheists. I heard one brother said, you tell that MF God of yours, where the F is he, where the F was he? I mean, just blasphemy, just running off at the mouth for no purpose. All the things that happened in the past, if you would look at it today, you would see the same thing happening today. I'm trying to tell you, that's the provocation. That's how you provoke the Father. Now you talking all that talk, you breathing the breath that he supplied. Folks, ain't no God, ain't no Father, ain't no Almighty One. I make the rules, I do what I do. There ain't nothing but the same thing that Satan said in Isaiah, the 14th chapter, I. 5 of them. And so what you're going to have to understand, this is the same thing that they said to Moses. And they began to murmur at Massa and Meribah, water, and they began to complain. And that's the same thing when I was studying theology, and I had to take this course, personal evangelism. And they taught me about people want to know if this thing work. They want to know how will their life be if they decide to accept this. And they taught us that mess. They taught us how to appease the people. They taught us how to be friendly with people and to be to try to pamper them into this truth. When we all know that Hebrews 4:12 say the word of Yahweh is sharp, quick and sharp and powerful than a two-edged sword, piercing to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and joints and marrow, and is a discerner of thoughts and intents of the heart. We understand that, but yet still people want to be smoothest thing over there. Didn't Isaiah say that people want folks to prophesy them smooth things? You ain't doing nothing but setting up a situation where an individual will provoke the Father. And this is what we're talking about, provocation. And the provocation is we are being assessed right now. We are being, there's been a determination on who we are. And as you see the events and the people grow more weary. And people are growing weary. And many people say, oh, it ain't the Father, it's heart. There's situations that happening all over the world, it's heart. It's the technology of the Father. Even if it's heart, the Father allow it to be put into people's mind to vibrate the ground, to cause earthquakes and all kinds of tsunamis and what have you. I work at a reputable company, and we make airplanes, and they do touch and goes. And these airplanes, they in the summertime when they take off, these F-18s, they be so loud that the whole ground rumbles. And this is just one airplane. This is just the turbine, the turbulence from that airplane throughout all the parking lots, alarms going off, windows shaking, and glass. I mean, it's crazy. So if one plane can do that, I can only imagine what they're doing up there in Alaska. The Father, remember, the Father allowed it to happen. Why? Because Joshua broke open those seals. You see what I'm saying? And when he broke open the seals, the title deed of the earth, however it is activated, is still from the Father, because it could not have been done as long as that title deed was in his hand. Many people talk about the Large Hadron Collider. Man, that's a dangerous thing. I stay as far away from that as I possibly can, because they are busting open, they smashing particles together, and they creating this antimatter. We are made of matter, which means for us to have some type of event or any type of situation, for matter to be disturbed, there must be some type of situation that will go down. Just like if for matter for you to burn matter, you must strike a match and light, ignite it, and put fuel on it. Let's just say a piece of wood or charcoal. When you put that stuff in when you barbecuing and you put the charcoal there, you got to put the lighter fluid. You have to do something to cause that charcoal or that wood to burn. That's matter. But antimatter, you don't need anything. It burns on its own. With antimatter, you need something to contain it, to keep it from burning. And they done fooled around and smashed atoms and particles together where they allowed antimatter to come into this realm. Antimatter is of a different dimension. They have allowed it through science to come into this dimension. And now people are reacting to this antimatter. Because antimatter, it is combustible. Antimatter, it self-reacts. It doesn't need assistance. And so with this Large Hadron Collider, you have people around the world that begin to display bizarre behaviors. What you think going on? It's the culmination. So, brothers and sisters, what we are seeing, we're seeing that, and we're witnessing the Father bringing his word to pass through his people. And when you read in Hebrews, let me read it. Wherefore, Hebrews 3:7, it says, wherefore, as the Holy Spirit saith, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your father tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. Even after 40 years, a lot of them tempted the Father. And I showed you how you tempt the Father. The Father wants to prove us. We got to learn how to allow him to prove us, and we have to come down. We too arrogant. We too proud. We too successful. We got too much things. We got more stuff than we need. And we have now developed an attitude that is rightfully ours, instead of having an attitude of gratitude towards the Father, not from your lips, but from the heart. This is what we are experiencing. And so, when you fail to have that gratitude in your heart, there's anything else in there that's anti the Father, guess what? It will self-destruct just like antimatter. So, the Father, he said that we didn't enter his rest because of unbelief. Those that look at verse 15, I'm trying to paraphrase it, but let me read it. You say, why it said, Hebrews 3 and 15, it say, while it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation. For some, when they had heard, did provoke. Howbeit, not all that came out of Egypt by Moses, but within whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcass fell in the wilderness, and to whom sware he that they should not enter into his rest, but to them that believe not? So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief. We're coming to the kingdom. It's vastly approaching, brothers and sisters. We are seeing, witnessing the confirmation of the Father's promise. The earth is groaning. The kingdom is coming apart. It's worldly system. You see the 45 is acting a fool, calling people sons of bitches and stuff like that. Yeah, I said it. All religious people, I know you just gonna tune out. But I'm a Hebrew Israelite, been commissioned to give this message. And so this message goes out to the redeemed. The whole world is waiting on you. And he called them that, and next thing you know, you got all kinds of chaos that's going on in the football, NFL, and now it's being channeled into Kim Jong-un. And so you have all these kingdoms, and what's really happening is crumbling. And what's really going on? It's the rest of the Father that's coming down the pipe. His rest. And rest is nothing but a peace of mind. Rest is being fully vindicated. You know, I was in a work study program at Rankin College back in the early 80s. And I would go to school for 8 hours. Then around 2 o'clock, after the school session was over, I would clock in and work all the way to 9:30 or 10 or something like that. Well, this particular time I think it was a Tuesday night. We had an assessment. We had an assessment on Wednesday. And so I stayed up late Tuesday night and I studied all the way to the wee hours, around 3:30 or something like that. I think I got 2 hours sleep. I got up, went to school, and passed the test. Thank the Father. And then afterwards, I clocked in. After school session was over, I clocked in, and I was a janitor. And then moved on from cleaning toilets to cleaning classrooms, and was promoted from cleaning classrooms to being a tool attendant. And so we was doing, auto body, aero mechanics, and all that kind of stuff. And so I was a tool. Was promoted all the way. The guy used to call me my swing man. Anyway, I worked all the way to about 9 or 30 or 10 or what have you. I can't remember. It was a Wednesday night, and I went to church. And Daddy, he was, Daddy Bishop Arthur C. Coleman. He would preach long, and Bible class would last till about 10:30 or somewhere around there. And Rankin wasn't too far from the church or Church of Christ Divine on Natural Bridge. And I went to the church, and it was right at the end. And Daddy had everyone to stand, and he began to pray, and you know, give the prayer for the benediction. And I remember standing, and I remember after everyone, the church, they say Amen, which is really Amen Ra, which is an Egyptian goddess. I mean God, but there are various gods in Egypt named Amen, and well, that's another subject for another video. But after they said Amen, somebody woke me up. I had fell asleep standing up. That's how tired I was. Once I got home, took a shower, and I laid down. That was one of the best feelings that I ever felt. That was better than sex. well, let me just say, it was close to it. And I laid down, and I was at peace and rest. I was so happy that day was over. Slept like a rock that whole night. That fulfillment, that peace, I was content. This is what the Father say when He say, "Enter my rest." When Yahshua say, "Take my yoke upon you," and He told the group of Hebrews that He would give them rest. And many times people ask me, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to close out. I'm going to say this, that I always talk about Israel, but salvation is for all those. It's for the whole world if they will humble themselves. Yes, including the white people. Salvation for you. I know a lot of Hebrew Israelite camps don't like that. And they probably going off, the ones that hear it. I don't think they hear me because, there are not too many subscribers and I don't get too many views. But it is what it is. And yes, the even the Gentiles, whites, the white people, Caucasians from the Caucasus Mountains, they can receive salvation, but they're going to have to give up the George Washingtons, the Thomas Jeffersons, and the Andrew and the Samuel Adams and all the founding fathers. Most of them had slaves and oppressed the Hebrews. They're going to have to give all that up, and they're going to have to come to the Hebrew Israelite. The Father got an order. The Father, Yahushua, His people, then the nations. That's how you read it in Revelation. When you get in that city, you have to go through the gate. Guess what? Those gates have the names of the 12 tribes. Each gate represent each tribe. 12 gates, 12 tribes. A gate represent you going in and out. And so, Yahshua said He is the door. And then He told His disciples, and who are Israelites, greater works you shall do. And these works is to preach to the nation, including Gentiles. So I want to say that because many people have questioned me. Well, what about? Yeah. There's salvation, but they have to humble themselves. As it says in Jeremiah 16:16. Just look it up and you'll check it out. So that's the rest. Rest is the seventh day when the Father rested from all His work. Completion is also represent recompense of everything that's been done. Reparation, fulfillment in the Father, total just totally contented with the Father. That's rest. And you find that throughout the scripture. Yahshua talked about rest, and we find it here in Hebrews. But he say, many will not enter because of unbelief. All you atheists out there talking about there is no Yah, even though you see the evidence all around, keep playing around. You're going to miss out, because we are at the apex of this kingdom. Malachi 3 and 7. They shall be mine, and he will distinguish between the righteous and the wicked. That goes all the way back to Judges, the 2nd chapter, and the 21st verse. So, this is, you know what? I think I've spoken long enough. Just words of exhortation. And the provocation, the provocation is it happens when an individual try to test the Father. You don't test the Father. You be content. Having food and raiment, be content. That's in Timothy. Okay, I'm just talking now. So that's all I had to. That's all I wanted to say. Provocation is those that not satisfied and always complaining, always looking for something. Be satisfied in the Father. You won't provoke him. He'll smile on you, and he will allow you rather to enter into this rest. And not only that, he would drop little breadcrumbs along the way. That's it. I'm serving on D, also known as Vermont. Shalom.